The bridge of the UES Meridian hummed quietly as Ambassador Chan stared at the communications display. 3 years of diplomatic talks, 3 years of trying to reason with the Zaphirian Confederacy, and still they kept attacking human colonies. She rubbed at her eyes and read the casualty reports from New Portland. 50,000 dead, said Captain Mason Hale from behind her. His voice was flat, tight with something that could not be hidden. Families, children, farmers who never hurt anyone. Chan stared at the pattern of numbers. The Zaphirians had struck the agricultural colony without warning, warships in orbit, orbital bombardment, everything below reduced to fire and ash. No demands, no ultimatums, no negotiations, only death from the sky. By the time human reinforcements arrived, there had been nothing left to save. The Council is laughing at us again, said Dr. Ria Patel, the Meridian's alien psychology specialist. She tapped through analysis streams and translations. They interpret restraint as weakness. In Zaphirian culture, not fighting back means you can't fight back. Maybe we should have fought after the first attack, Captain Hale said. Or the second, or the 10th. Chan had heard the argument 100 times. The military wanted to strike. Earth's government had restrained them. Humanity was young on the galactic stage. It wanted to prove it was a peaceful species. It wanted other civilizations to see humans as reasonable and trustworthy, not as loose cannons. The cost had been human lives. Admiral Mara O'Neill is requesting new orders, Hale said. Earth Defense Command wants to know if we're still trying diplomacy. Chan looked again at the rolling body count. 50,000 on New Portland, 20,000 on Beta Centauri, 15,000 on Wolf 359. 17 colonies hit in 6 months. She could feel the ledger of grief stacking up. Patel met Chan's eyes. Once they decide you're weak, they won't stop. They'll keep attacking until they control you. You can try to buy time with treaties, but in their minds weakness is a resource. We offered trade deals, technology, territory, Hale growled. We begged them to stop. They kept killing our people. Chan's hands hovered over the console. She had spent weeks in mediation rooms with Zaphirian envoys who broke promises. The moment human backs were turned, she had watched ceasefires dissolve into ambushes. She had watched civilians die while she pleaded for mercy. Admiral O'Neill is requesting permission to deploy the reserve fleets, Hale said. Earth Defense Command wants to know if they have the go-ahead. Chan felt the shape of a decision form in her chest. 3 years of restraint. 3 years of patient entreaties. Too many corpses. Her fingers moved over the keys. The message she composed was short, clinical, impossible to misread. To the Zaphirian High Command, human colonies have been attacked 17 times. In the past 6 months, 50,000 civilians died on New Portland yesterday. This ends now. Further attacks on human civilians will be answered without courtesy. She sent it to every Zaphirian channel they could reach. Think they'll listen? Hale asked. Patel shook her head. They won't. They'll think it's a bluff. The reply arrived within the hour. Fleet Commander Vorish appeared on the Meridian's main screen, his scaled face curled in amusement. Weak humans make threats they cannot keep, he said in clipped comment. Your people flee from battle like frightened animals. Your colonies burn because you are too weak to protect them. Soon all human worlds will belong to the Confederacy. The transmission ended with the sound of Zaphirian laughter. Hale's expression blackened. Chan forwarded the message to Earth Defense Command. Her communicator buzzed before the echo of Zaphirian derision had faded. Ambassador Chan, said Admiral Mara O'Neill, voice tight with authority. You issued the warning. Earth Defense Command authorizes Protocol 7. All human ships are to reveal true capabilities and defend human space by any means necessary. Protocol 7. The phrase had been whispered in briefing halls, but rarely acted upon. It was the order to stop pretending humanity was harmless. What happens now? Chan asked. Hale read the incoming orders and exhaled. Now the Zaphirians find out what humans are really like when courtesy ends. Patel's smile was small and sad. We chose peace. Now they force us to prove it. Hidden compartments that had been built to look like cargo holds began to shift across human space. Engines that masqueraded as limp civilian drives bared their teeth. Armor plates folded from beneath decorative holes and sealed into true battle copes. Weapon ports opened like flowers revealing stingers. What had been freighters, mining support ships, and research vessels were no longer what they seemed. At Kepler Station, the mining colony's support vessel, Terra's Hammer, went through its transformation under the steady hand of Captain Rook Delgado on the bridge. For years the ship had looked like a slow miner's escort, a visible, non-threatening presence in a system rich with rare metals. When the order came down, engineering bled power into military rails. The hull split into armored segments. Hidden turrets unfolded. Shafts that had once housed or drills slid aside to reveal cannon rays. On the station surface, Dr. Nilichan, head of Project Chimera, authorized systems that had been dormant for decades. Under the colony, emplacement batteries sealed and warmed. Shield generators spun up. For years they had maintained an outward appearance of mining and geology. For years they had kept the truth hidden. From the Zaphirian warbridge the approach looked as they expected. Meek human targets ripe for the taking. Fleet Commander Voris smiled contemptuously as his fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Then his tactical feeds spat numbers that did not match his assumptions. "Commander," said a junior officer, staring at the display, "the vessel we identified as a mining support is now broadcasting the signature of a heavy battle cruiser. Stationary positions are sealing into fortified batteries. Voris snorted, they have no military tech worth the name." The laugh died in his throat when energy beams lanced from Terra's hammer, and the colony platforms with devastating accuracy. Human weapons carved through shields and hulls. Mines that had been declared inert were, in seconds, transformed into perfect traps. Boarding teams, Marines tempered for a fight they had waited years to fight, moved with ferocious speed and efficiency. Captain Rook Delgado opened the clean channel. "Zaphirian vessels, this is Captain Rook Delgado of the Terran Defense Force. You are in violation of human space and threaten civilians. Withdraw now and avoid catastrophic loss." Voris responded with contemptuous laughter and a death sentence. "Fool, we will burn you from Kepler and send the rest as warning." Rook's reply was cold. "Then courtesy ends here. All units, engage." 17 minutes later Voris's fleet existed only in fragments of sensor noise and floating wreckage. Not a single Zaphirian vessel remained combat capable. Some were obliterated by concentrated volleys. Others were taken in boarding actions so swift the Zaphirians never adapted. Voris himself was dragged from a smoking bridge and placed in custody beneath a human flag. When the battle ended, the transmissions from Kepler were rebroadcast to every galactic network. The humans had done what none expected. They had turned shims into an armada of lethal machines, and then executed tactics that would be studied for generations. On Earth, President Elena Vasquez watched the battle log with an expression that was neither triumph nor joy. She had authorized the preparedness hidden beneath decades of peaceful contact. While she had not wished for war, she had, however, prepared humanity to survive it. "What is Project Looking Glass?" a reporter demanded in a briefing outside deep government chambers later that week. The question had been leaked and then amplified. "An intelligence program," President Vasquez answered calmly. "We never sought war. We sought knowledge, so no species could surprise us with extinction. If any government chooses to target our civilians, we will meet them with whatever is necessary to protect our people." The Council on Harmony Prime, neutral ground where galactic politics were articulated and argued, erupted into session. Representatives from dozens of species crowded into the spherical chamber. When commander transmissions of the Kepler battle arrived, Chairman Corrin convened an emergency meeting. Alien delegates spoke in stunned, hushed voices. "How could humans hide this for 50 years? demanded Ambassador Thexalon of the Realian Empire. Dr. Evelyn Park, humanity's liaison to the Council, rose and answered plainly, "We did not hide out of malice. We chose not to use what we had. Peace was our policy. We prefer the cost of appearing soft to the cost of constant war." Professor Miriam Zhao, historian and chief archivist for humanity's public record, was summoned to the Council's archives. There she revealed something that increased the shock. Humans had not only concealed military facilities and systems, they had quietly gathered data for decades. Trade missions, cultural exchanges, scientific voyages, all had been opportunities to study alien technology and doctrine. The request for galactic warfare conventions and defenses, made politely in open diplomatic channels years earlier, had been a textbook-grade admission of curiosity. Now it read as careful preparation. "You asked for our military histories," said Elder Moore Deepip, an ethereal being older than most. "You listened to our plans. You learned and improved. And then you waited," Chairman Corrin said, looking at Dr. Park. "You could have acted earlier." "We tried peace," Dr. Park said. "We still prefer it. But there is a difference between having the capability for war and using it. We will not allow our civilians to be test fodder for someone else's ambition." Human tactics went beyond Kepler. Commanders who had once been content to wear civilian faces on their ships now dropped those masks across multiple theaters. Admiral Amani Okoye, aboard the flagship Earth's Fury, orchestrated strikes simultaneously across 12 systems. Ships alleged to be merchant transports unfolded into dreadnoughts. Stealth craft that had been dismissed as surveyors penetrated rear supply lines and cut communications. The Terran Defense Force struck military installations with surgical precision and avoided civilian casualties whenever possible. In sanctuaries across the galaxy, alien governments replayed the footage again and again. The Andromedan delegate observed, whispering to a neighbor, "They fight like a species that learned from history." They were right. For half a century, humans had cataloged tactics, mapped supply chains, audited command notes, and quietly replaced friendly grins with steel once the choice to do so had been forced upon them. They had refined others' mathematics, improved engine designs, and integrated alien shielding with their own exotic matter manipulations. The result was a force efficient and devastating enough to dismantle the Zaphirian Confederacy's ability to wage war. Not all humans relished the destruction. In the command arc of the Nemesis platform, a station the size of a small moon that had disguised itself for 20 years as an asteroid mining hub, Captain Titus Sauer stood at a console labeled Planetary Neutralization. He had the authority to demonstrate ultimate force. He did not use it against living worlds. Instead, he chose an uninhabited moon in the outer system. When the planet cracker fired, the moon did not explode so much as tear itself apart. Exotic energy beams unzipped its mantle. The body crumbled into fragments within 10 minutes. The broadcast was intended as proof. Yes, humans could annihilate a world if they chose, and no, they preferred not to. Supreme Commander Zekethal of the Zaphirians watched his navy smeared into the void and realized the hole that humiliation and loss had carved in his people's future. His intelligence estimates, faulty for decades, had undervalued human resolve and capability catastrophically. "You misjudge them," his advisor said. "We attacked their colonies because they seemed weak. We believed we could take what we wanted." Zekethal's voice was small. "We do not have allies to defend us. When surrender came, it was unconditional." Commander Sira Nakamura broadcast the terms. "We will not exterminate your population. We will not plunder your cities. But your military will be demobilized and placed under international oversight. You will make reparations for lives taken." On board his flagship Vorish, broken, chainbound, could not meet the eyes of the humans who held him. Across the galaxy, the consequences were immediate. Some species cheered for the end of a predator that had long menaced human colonies. Others were unsettled, even fearful. What else had the humans been gathering for? But many realized that the Terran approach had replaced continuous warfare. With a guarantee of protection, attack civilians, and the Terrans would intervene. Back on Earth, President Elena Vasquez addressed the Galactic Council from a podium over which hung the flags of dozens of species. Her voice was tired but firm. "We did not seek this war," she said. "We tried diplomacy for 3 years while our civilians were murdered. We do not desire conquest. We want trade, exploration, and peace. But we will never let anyone mistake our gentleness for weakness." She announced a new policy, the Human Doctrine. Any species that launched deliberate attacks on civilian populations would face Terran intervention. Peaceful species could request protection. The doctrine was not cloaked in triumphalism. It was an enforcement posture, an attempt to make large-scale aggression too costly to attempt. At home, the Terran Defense Initiative organized patrol routes and placed bases at strategic choke points. Human fleets began escorting convoys of alien merchants across dangerous lanes. Reports showed piracy rates collapse where human patrols operated. The defeated Zaphirians, reconstituted under the name New Harmony by human and council administrators, began a slow, stuttering reconstruction. Factories that once churned out ordnance were converted to produce medical supplies and agricultural equipment under the supervision of human engineers like Dr. Nilichan. Civilians who had believed bellicosity to be their destiny found that, freed from coarse violence, their lives could be ordinary again. Dr. Ria Patel published a paper in the Galactic Journal of Xenon Psychology, a careful, dispassionate study titled The Human Paradox. Her thesis, humans possess a unique profile, an extraordinary capacity for kindness, paired with an equally extraordinary capacity for violence. When the safety of their civilians is threatened, the choice was what made them dangerous, a species that preferred peace, yet was prepared for annihilation, was a difficult variable for others to compute. in military academies across the galaxy. Commander Sira Nakamura's after-action reports became standard study material. Her final line, simple and lethal, was memorized: "We tried peace first. When peace failed, we stopped pretending and became effective." Even those who had once conspired to attack humans could not deny the result. Trade lanes that had been perilous became safe. Former enemies negotiated new accords. Some malicious actors were deterred simply by the knowledge that the Terrans would respond to civilian slaughter with overwhelming force. Professor Miriam Zhao, completing a lecture at the Galactic Council's archives, told students about strategy and ethics. Humans did something no one else had tried on this scale, she said. They learned, adapted, and waited. They chose to be gentle, and when forced, they chose to be unrelenting. Years later, at a commemoration for the dead of New Portland, Ambassador Chan stood before a small green park planted where a market had once been. She touched the smooth stone of a memorial that listed names. The grief of loss never left her. The taste of it shaped every policy she made. A child tugged at her sleeve. "Ambassador," the kid asked, looking up with blunt curiosity, "did you want to do this?" The fighting. Chan thought of the faces she had seen in the ashes. She thought of Vorish and Zika Thal and the moons that had been shattered for demonstration. She thought of Admiral Mara O'Neill's steady hand and Dr. Nilla Chen's tired eyes. When she switched systems from offense to relief production, "No," Chan said finally. "We wanted peace. We tried to be peaceful first, always. But our people died while we kept asking for mercy. We learned that sometimes being gentle requires strength. I would rather be strong and kind than kind and dead." The child nodded as if the answer were simple. Humans had taught the galaxy a new lesson, that true power is not measured by eagerness to fight, but by the ability to choose when to do so, and by the willingness to protect the innocents who cannot fight for themselves. The phrase slipped into galactic language the way legends do. Human courtesy came to mean the deliberate restraint of a powerful species, the understanding that gentleness could be a strategic and moral posture, and that those who confused it for weakness would learn the price of their mistake. And somewhere, under strictly supervised programs, the Zaphirians, who had once cheered at human weakness, planted crops, rebuilt homes, and raised out their children that governments could lead them away from war. Whether their new peace proved genuine or fragile remained to be seen. But the galaxy, wary, chastened, and safer for years to come, had altered its calculations. Ambassador Chan returned to her ship and stared at the map of systems that had been unsafe. Before human patrols took up their orbit, the ledger of lives saved and lives lost flickered past. It would never all balance out. It never would. But the choice had been made. "We tried peace first," she told the Meridian's crew, echoing a line that would be carved on plaques and printed in textbooks. "We will always try it first. But when peace fails, courtesy ends, and we will protect our people." Somewhere, in a galaxy that had once regarded humans as naive, the word used to describe them no longer meant weakness. It meant something else, a warning and an invitation at once. Be peaceful. Be respectful of civilians, and you will find humans gentle and generous. Attack civilians, and you will meet a force that will not stop until you cannot attack again.